GCC e-ticaret ve lojistik imkanları bilgilendirme seminerimize hoş geldiniz. Seminerimiz Türkçe olarak açılış konuşmalarının ardından 3 panel olarak devam edecektir. Sizlerin de mümkün olduğunca sorularınızı yöneltebilmeniz için her panel 1,5 saat olarak planlanmıştır. Bölgenin lider firmalarının yer alacağı seminerimizin sizlere çok değerli bilgiler sağlayacağına inanıyoruz. İngilizce ve Türkçe dil seçeneği için simultane tercüme ekranınızın sağ alt köşesinde Interpretation alanından dil seçimi yapabilirsiniz. Türkçe için German, Almanca seçmeniz gerekmektedir. Ve iki ses duymamak için Mute Original Audio'ya basmanız gerekiyor. Gün boyunca veya panel sonlarında Q&A kısmından bize sorularınızı iletebilirsiniz. Sözlerimi daha fazla uzatmadan sözü Başkonsolosumuz Sayın İlker Kılıç'a bırakıyorum. Mikrofon.
Çok teşekkürler uyarı için. Herkese selamlar. Hepinize saygı ve sevgiyle selamlıyorum. Sizlerle bir araya gelmekten mutluluk duyuyorum. Pazar sabahı vakit ayırarak katıldığınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Bu işinize bağlılığınızı da gösteriyor. Bu yüzden sizi özellikle tebrik ediyoruz. Ama sizi dolu dolu bir program bekliyor. Bu programın düzenlenmesinin arkasında çok büyük emekler var. Bunu bilmenizi isterim. Başkonsolosluğumuzun ticaret ateşeliğine, başta ticaret ateşemiz Hasan Önal olmak üzere ateşemiz Ahmet Canlı'ya ve ateşelik ekibinin tamamına haftalar süren yoğun emekleri için ve uğraşları için teşekkürü borç biliyorum. Etkinliğin diğer paydaşı Dubai Türk İş Konseyi'ne, Başkanı Nilgün Hanım'a ve ETİ'de ayrıca panellerin düzenlenmesinde emeği geçen herkese çok teşekkür ediyorum. E-ticaretin artık konvansiyonel ticaretten ayrı tutulmaması gerektiğini düşünüyorum. E-ticaretin konvansiyonel ticareti tamamlayıcı olmaktan çoktan çıktığına ve ticaretin gittikçe büyüyen ve güçlenen bir kol olduğuna inanıyorum. Ben kişisel olarak alışverişimin neredeyse tamamını online platformlardan yapıyorum. Bu yüzden e-ticaret imkanlarının geliştirilmesinin ele alınmasına özellikle mutluluk duyuyorum bugün. Çünkü zira mağazalara girdiğimde gördüğüm Türk ürünlerinin çeşitliliğini online platformda görememeyi üzücü buluyorum. Yine var Türk ürünleri ama gelişmesi gerekiyor bu alanın. Covid sonrası da hızlanan dijitalleşme ve e-ticaretin yaygın kullanımı aslında hepimiz için bir fırsat sunuyor. MENA'ya bakacak olursak, MENA bölgesi yani Orta Doğu ve Kuzey Afrika e-ticaretin en hızlı yayıldığı bölge. 2019'da %25 büyüme kaydedilmiş.
Nasılsınız?
Bu dünya ortalamasının iki katına tekabül ediyor.
Biz deyiz, teşekkürler.
Yaklaşık
Şimdi
28,5 milyar dolarlık bir hacimden bahsediyoruz. Bir pastadan bahsediyoruz.
Ben de izninizle İngilizce geçiyorum.
Bölgede aslan payı ise başta Dubai olmak üzere Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri'nde bunun akabinde Suudi Arabistan'da. Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri'nde kişi başına yılda 1600 doların online alışverişin kullanıldığı tahmin ediliyor. Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri dijital erişimin en yüksek olduğu ülke bölgede.
It is my pleasure to host a series of 3 conversations today with top e-commerce experts in the Middle East and Africa. They come from major organizations in the field, namely Amazon, Oman Post, and Jumia. Our goal in these conversations is to introduce these panelists and their firms to Turkish brands and better understand why and how these brands can increase their online sales in the Middle East and African markets. A bit of information about the setup of the conversations. There will be a series of 3 conversations, each about 30 minutes long. We're starting a bit late, but I think we can catch up. I have some flow-start questions that I've shared with the participants, but please also feel free as audience members to ask your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. And I will do my best to review them throughout the conversation and ask them once our questions are done. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce our first conversation with Amazon. There are 2 very valued members joining us. Mary Gabriel, she's the Director of Marketplace Expansion at Amazon, and Varun Sharma, Head of Global Selling at Amazon. Welcome. How are you?
Uluslararası şirketlerin siz de
Very well. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for us to be here. I mean, Turkey and the Turkish sellers and Turkish entrepreneurs are very, very valuable, and we love the Turkish brand in our region. So very excited to enabling some of that into this region.
Sounds great. And I know, Mary, I think you're on the move. Things are always moving at
dağıtım hızı ve frekansını
arttırıyor. As you guys know, we've recently launched Amazon in Saudi, so we just got called into a quick meeting. I sincerely apologize, but maybe I'll just take a few 5 minutes to
%90'ı yabancılardan oluşuyor ve bir sirkülasyon var. Yani nüfus her sene belli bir orana gidiyor, yeni bir nüfus geliyor.
Yes, absolutely. So as you guys know, Souk has been here for more than 10-11 years now with Ronaldo Shahwar, which is one of the best Arabic entrepreneurs in the region. We established the ecosystem of e-commerce. And then in 2017, we were actually honored that Amazon came to us and acquired Souk. And since then, we were able to change from Souk.com immediately to Amazon.com, which was quite a significant change, because with Amazon and the technology and Prime, and more importantly, actually enabling global sellers from around the world to sell into the region on Amazon. That's one of the big milestones of Amazon. And then almost where we're going to be almost a month ago, another milestone where we launched Amazon in Saudi Arabia.
Yaklaşık 10 milyar dolarlık bir 10 milyar liraya dayanan bir ticaret hacmimiz var. Bunun yarısı hava kargo ile yapılıyor. Her gün uçan Türk Hava Yolları kargo gibi etkin elimizde araçlar ve avantajlar mevcut. Yani pazardan, burada pazardan e-ticarette de daha fazla pay almamız için hiçbir neden yok. Ama buradaki faaliyetlerimizi ve ticaretimizi arttırmayı düşünürken dikkate almanızı istediğim birkaç husus var. Bunu birçok platformda da zaten dile getiriyorum. Bu pazara, Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri pazarına herhangi bir ön yargıyla yaklaşmamak gerekiyor. Buraya operasyon yaptığınızda göreceksiniz. Yapanlar da bilirler zaten. Batıdaki herhangi bir pazardan farklı değil. Ne beklentiler ne de işleyiş bakımından. Regülasyonu boldur buranın, uygulamaları katıdır ve müeyyideler serttir. Onun için buraya iş yaparken genelde avukatlık ve danışmanlık hizmetlerinden faydalanılmasını tavsiye ediyoruz. Ve kestirme yol aranmaması. Bunun maliyeti çok fazla olabiliyor. Demin bahsettiğim yabancı nüfus, buradaki %90'lık yabancı nüfus, buraya yönelik stratejileriniz de belirlerken dikkate alınması gereken bir faktör. Bu nüfus sirkülasyonunu pazarlama stratejilerimizi her zaman diri tutmanız anlamına geliyor. Çünkü pazar değişiyor. Ama bunun yanında ayrılan kişilerin ettikleri ülkelerde de tüketicinizin artması anlamına geliyor. Böyle bir avantaj da sunuyor. Yabancı nüfus, bazı ürünlerde kültürel alışkanlıkların baskın çıkması ve homojen bir pazar olmaması anlamına da.
That is great.
Demin cami hakkında
bahsetmiştim.
Burada önem verilen bir konu. Bunun burada en etkili şekilde kullanıldığına dikkat alınması gerekiyor.
Oh, if you want to tell it, drop it, that's great.
Tesis ederken. Mümkün olduğu kadar şirketlerimize burada olmaya çalışmalarını tavsiye ediyoruz. Bu bir avantaj sağlıyor. Şahsen ben tüketici olarak online alışveriş yaptığınız zaman önem verdiğim iki unsur, bir tanesi hız, bir tanesi de öngörülebilir maliyet. Bu nedenle alışverişimi yaparken mesela Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri'nde bulunan sağlayıcılardan alışveriş yapmaya dikkat ediyorum. Yurt dışındakilerden mümkün olduğu kadar sipariş vermemeye çalışıyorum. Çünkü bazen ilave masraflar çıkabiliyor ve tabii ki hıza düşüyor. Dubai'ye sadece Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri olarak bakmayın ve kendinizi de buradaki yerel pazarda sınırlı tutmayın. Demin de bahsettiğim bölgesel avantajı kullanın, buradaki imkanları da kullanın ve başta Suudi Arabistan olmak üzere bölgedeki faaliyetlerinizi de artırmayı mutlaka hedefleriniz arasına koyun. Mümkün olduğu kadar sektör olarak, alt sektörler olarak birlikte hareket etmeye çalışın. Bu size göreceksiniz yaptığınız takdirde avantajlar sunacaktır. Birlikten kuvvet var. Ateşliliğimizi kullanın. Size destek olmak ve yol göstermek için ellerinden geleni yapacaklarını zaten göreceksiniz. Bugüne kadar temassız olursa zaten görmüşsünüz. Bana birçok toplantıda sorulan ve eminim hepinizin de aklına kurcalayan ikili ilişkilerimizin akıbetine dair sorularınız eminim vardır. İkili ilişkilerde bazı sorunlar olduğunu gizlemeye gerek yok. Zaten hepiniz takip ediyorsunuz. Ama bu durumla ilgili endişelerimiz çalışmalarınıza etki etmesin. Devletler arası sorunlarla devletler uğraşsın, siz kendi uğraşınıza odaklanın. Özellikle Dubai, akıl ve sağduyuyla siyaseti ve ticareti birbirine karıştırmamaya çalışan bir ülke. Nitekim ilişkilerdeki bozulmaya karşılık ticaretimizin ve Türk nüfusunun da her geçen yıl arttığını gördük. Bunun da önemli bir kanıt olduğunu düşünüyorum. Siz işinizi en iyi şekilde yapmaya devam edin. Buradaki fırsatlardan pay alacağınızı güveniyorum. Türk e-ticaret uygulamalarının, şirketlerinin ve bu platformları kullanan tüm şirketlerimizin buradaki varlıklarını daha güçlü bir şekilde yaygınlaştırmasını diliyorum. Ticari gücümüz burada devlet olarak gücümüzdür. Sizler ve ürünleriniz bizim buradaki elçilerimizsiniz. Önünüzde yoğun ve verimli olacağını düşündüğüm bir program var. Buna bir an önce devam edebilmeniz için ben sözlerimi burada sonlamak istiyorum. Size bugün ve yarın sunduğumuz bu imkanlardan en iyi şekilde yararlanmanız ve kendi ve sizleri hizmetlerinizde ve ürünlerinizle burada bir an önce görme temelinde paylaşmak istiyorum. Toplantım oldukça sizden bu noktada ayrılacağım. Ancak takip etmeye devam edeceğim. Hepinize saygı ve sevgiyle selamlıyorum.
Çok teşekkür ederiz İlker Bey. Yoğun programımızda iş dünyasına her zaman vakit ayırıyorsunuz. Yarın düzenlenecek e-ticaret köprüsü etkinliğinde ve bunun hazırlanmasında en çok emeği geçen kişilerden biri olarak Dubai Ticaret Ateşemiz Sayın Hasan Önal'a sözü bırakıyorum.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much.
Ben de İlker gibi pazar keyfini vazgeçerek BCC ve MIA e-ticaret ve lojistik.
Thank you. Thanks, Alper, for first of all hosting us in this event. I think it's a great opportunity for us to showcase what we bring both in terms of technology and in terms of scale. And as Mary rightly mentioned, with Amazon, we actually unleash the potential of global selling and global opportunities for our customers. Turkey being one of the key brands that the customers are looking for. Now pivoting to your question, I think it's a simple four-step process. I won't complicate it for our audience. And it's no different from what a seller in UAE would do versus a seller in Turkey would do. There would be some additional requirements, but these are especially to facilitate. So if I go through the steps, the first step is the registration process. Registration is through our self-service website. The website is services.amazon.com, services.amazon.ae. The process is pretty simple. We require documentation, and documentation is of their origin home country. We don't need any documentation of Dubai. So after the documentation is submitted, we take normally between 24 to 48 hours to vet the documents and make the store available for the sellers to then start the next step. The next step being catalog creation. Depending on the seller, big seller, small merchant, or a large enterprise, we have different ways of integrating the catalog.
Bu bilgilendirmeyi sadece katılımcılar ile paylaşmayı doğru bulmak ve Dubai ve Kuzey Emirlikleri İş Konseyi'nde destekleriyle Türkiye'de e-ihracata ve sınır ötesi ticarete gönül vermiş ve ilgi duyan herkesin katılımını istedik. Malumunuz küresel salgın ile dünya bir dönüşüm içerisine girmiştir. Evlerine kapanan tüketiciler artan trend içerisinde olan e-ticaret alışveriş modelini vazgeçilmez hale kılmıştır. Sosyal mesafeleri iş hayatına girmiş oldu. Günümüzde uçuşların zorlaştığı bir dönemde bizler de iş adamları da her şeyin normalleşmesini evlerde bekleme lüksümüz yok. Bu bağlamda Dubai Başkonsolosluğu Ticaret Ateşeliği olarak 20'den fazla bilgilendirme semineriyle insanlarımızla bir araya geldik. Bunun yanı sıra 4 sanal e-ticaret heyeti gerçekleştirilmesine vesile oldu. Yapı malzemeleri, Lulu süpermarketlerine özel markalı ürünlerin üretilmesi ve gıda heyeti bunların üçüydü. Ama bu heyet bizler için diğerlerinden farklı ve özel bir heyet. Niye özel? Bu sanal ticaret heyetiyle e-ticaret ağına sahip önemli markaların yanı sıra ihracat servis sağlayıcıları ile ülkemizin KOBİ'lerinin ürünlerinin dış pazarlara açılmasını amaçlıyoruz. Bu anlamda örneğiyle ilk herhangi bir tanımlı bir devlet desteği kullanılmadı ve PR desteği alınmadı. Ateşeliğimizin, personelin yoğun gayreti ve bakanlığımızın diğer yurt dışı temsilcilerinin özverili desteği alınmasıyla gerçekleşti. Burada hemen bir parantez açıp Umman Ticaret Ateşeliğine, Kuveyt'te bulunan ticaret ateşeliğimiz, müşavirliğimize, Suudi Arabistan'da Cidde'de bulunan arkadaşlarımıza teşekkür ederiz. Onların katkılarıyla burada o ülkenin yerel marketplace'lerine katılımları sağlandı. Küresel salgının bize vermiş olduğu küresel mesajın net olarak algılandığı, karşılığında da cevaben uygulanmaya konmasıyla özel bir heyet. Birlikte organizasyonu gerçekleştirdiğimiz Dubai Ticaret Odası'nda sanal ortamda gerçekleştirdiği ilk sanal ticaret heyeti. Bu heyete aynı zamanda Dubai Lojistik District'te
can we elaborate a bit further on fulfilled by Amazon versus merchants himself fulfilling with a third party? I think the audience would really benefit from getting a bit deeper understanding on, yes, obviously if it's fulfilled by Amazon, you take a lot of the heavy lifting, but the conversion differences, etc. Could you elaborate a bit more about this?
Sanal ortamda da iş insanlarımız için buluşma merkezi olduğunu ispatlamıştır. 2009 yılında 22 milyar dolarlık bir
I would take a use case and try to explain it in a simplistic way. If I'm a brand with a large catalog, a large set of selection, I would want to be a hybrid model, which means I would want to be an MFN player as well as an FBA player. How would I do that is by ensuring that my entire catalog,
FBA in Amazon terminology is fulfilled by Amazon. Just want to clarify for the audience. They may not be so used to.
Sorry about that. So FBA is fulfilled by Amazon, or in other terms, to make it even more simpler, it would be B2B2C kind of a business where you forward deploy your inventory in our warehouse and we do the last mile. So coming back to the example, I think it's important for brands to understand that fulfilled by Amazon unleashes the potential of the brand to ship products at a very faster pace. So speed is very important. We can offer same-day delivery, next-day delivery, free delivery for our prime customers. And even when customers search for the products which are on FBA, they have a higher visibility than products that are on MFN. While FBA is something that ensures that your product has a faster rotation, MFN is where you should not miss out on products that the customer is looking for and is relevant, yet it is unique. And you want to first of all gauge the potential of the product before moving that SKU into our FC. So MFN is typically a long tail selection where you ensure that the entire catalog is available for anyone, any customer looking for the product. They at least can search and then place an order, and you can always use a third-party logistic to service that order. While FBA is where your head selection, your faster rotation, your speed, your delivery promise comes into picture. I'm making it a generic one. There are nuances to it. We have pages to make sellers understand. There are videos. But if I were a brand, I would try to use a hybrid model. If I were a brand with a large catalog, I would use a model which is hybrid in nature. But if I'm a brand with a small or a head selection, maybe like less than 20, less than 50 SKUs, I would use FBA services for the entire selection.
Okay, understood. And let's say I'm a Turkish brand with thousands of SKUs, and I'm a well-known brand. Are there ways that these brands can list themselves and have their own, branded store? How do you make that judgment on versus, taking a catalog and kind of, spreading it across catalog in the category versus providing, a more dedicated place for a brand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Biz teşekkür ederiz Hasan Bey. Son
konuşmayı
konuşmayı yapmak üzere E-Ticaret İşletmecileri Derneği Başkan Yardımcısı ve epttabm.com Genel Müdürü Sayın Hakan Çevikoğlu'na sözü vermek istiyorum. Buyurun Hakan Bey.
Teşekkürler. Herkese iyi günler dilerim. Öncelikle Dubai Ticaret Ateşi'nde böyle güzel bir organizasyon yaptıkları için teşekkür ederek başlamak istiyorum. Etik olarak da bu ilk Amazon olmayacağının garantisini vererek buradan gitmek istiyorum. Yani biz elimizden geleni yapacağız bunların devamında. Bu şu anda bile bu başarıyla gerçekleşmiş bir organizasyon gibi gelmeye başladı. Etkilerini biz almaya başladık. Arka planda bazı anlaşmalar yapılmaya başladı. Hareket başlamış durumda, bunu bilmenizi isterim. Global e-ticaret pazarı 4 trilyon dolara yaklaşmış durumda ve bunun %25 yani 1 trilyon dolarlık ihracat hacmi oluşmuş durumda. Gelişen, hızlanan, ucuzlayan lojistik ve kargo dağıtım altyapısı, global ve lokal ödeme platformlarına olan entegrasyonlar, mobil internet penetrasyonu, globalleşen, bölgeselleşen e-ticaret platformları ve 300 milyonu aşan global e-ihracat tüketicisi, bölgesel ve global e-ticaret, e-ihracatın gelişmesinin temel unsurlarıdır. Önemli global 3 platform, isim zikretmekten çok çekinmiyorum. Yani Amazon, Alibaba grubu ve eBay e-ihracat pazarının %55'inden fazlasına ürün vermekte ve bu şirketlerin menşei biliyorsunuz Amerika ve Çin'dir. Çoğunlukla bu şirketler ve ülkeler tarafından yönlendirilen e-ihracat, Covid-19 ile birlikte lojistik olarak birbirine daha yakın ve alternatif lojistik modelleri olan bölgesel ülkelerin kendi içerisinde yoğun olarak gelişimini tetiklemiş. Zira global lojistik altyapısı ciddi bir risk testinden geçmiş ve dönüşüm gerekliliğini ortaya çıkarmıştır. Artık bölgesel e-ihracat platformları, operasyonları ve lojistiği çok daha fazla ön plana çıkmıştır. Tam da bu nedenle e-commerce, British, UAE ve Turkey ayrı bir önem taşımaktadır. Bölge içerisinde ülkelerimiz arasında karşılıklı olarak yapabileceğimiz pek çok e-ticaret ve e-ihracat fırsatı bulunmakta ve bu hem platform, teknoloji, ürün ticaretini hem de lojistik, ödeme, insan kaynağı, ödeme altyapısı hizmetlerini içermektedir. Türkiye ve Orta Doğu, ve Kuzey Afrika bölgesinde
some questions are coming in, and they're fitting to this section, so I'll just ask them now. Essentially, a couple audience members are asking a similar question about course listing. I think one audience member is already listed in Amazon UK, and another audience member is already listed in Amazon.ae, and they're asking, can we cross-list? So for the UAE listed audience member, can they somehow start selling in Saudi without having to have stock in Saudi? Or if they, the UK member can press a button and say, list me internationally and start selling in UAE and Saudi as well.
Türkiye 63 milyon kişinin internet erişiminin, 58 milyon kişinin mobil internet erişiminin olduğu bölgenin en büyük ve en dinamik dijital pazarlarından biridir. Türkiye ticaret pazarı 136 milyar Türk lirası, yaklaşık 20 milyar dolar ve bunun %85'i yurt içi platform harcamaları iken %9'u yabancı ülke vatandaşlarının ülkemiz platformlarındaki harcaması ve %6'sı vatandaşlarımızın yurt dışı platformlarındaki harcaması. Dolayısıyla %15'lik
Can you clarify that, please?
Bu
temel pazar, bu toplantı katılımcılarının ana hedefidir. Türkiye'nin en büyük e-ticaret sektörleri giyim, ayakkabı, aksesuar 13.8 milyar lira. Bunlar Ticaret Bakanlığı'nın açıkladığı veriler, biliyorsunuz yakın zamanda. İkinci olarak beyaz eşya, küçük ev aletleri 13.3 milyar lira. Üçüncü olarak da elektronik geliyor 8,5 milyar liralık bir harcamadan bahsediyoruz. E-ticaret faaliyetleri gerçekleştiren Türkiye'de 68 bin şirket, kurum ve KOBİ bulunmaktadır.
and you have a
Özellikle
catalog in
Covid-19
US,
döneminde
with
Türkiye'de
a click of a
e-ticaret
button, you can
Ocak-Mayıs
migrate your
dönemine
catalog of
bakarsak ilk 5 aya
.com
bir
into
önceki
AE.
yılın
That
aynı
functionality we
dönemine
have already
kıyasla
built.
%48
We have
büyümüş.
not yet built a
Bu
functionality
güçlü
where
büyüme
.uk
özel
catalog
sektör
can
ve
be
kamu kurumları
migrated into
işbirliğiyle
AE. We are working with the
gerçekleşmiştir.
teams, and very soon we'll be
Özellikle
having that functionality.
e-ticaretin büyümesinin
As I
desteklenmesi,
said, Alper, I'm going
lojistik
to
ve
divide this
teknoloji
question into parts. So
altyapısının
the first part
geliştirilmesi
is about
konusunda Sayın Ulaştırma
sellers
ve
who are
Altyapı
having
Bakanımız Adil
their
Kara
stores in
İsmailoğlu ve
outside
Sayın
Middle East,
TRT Genel
not
Müdürümüz
in
Sayın
UAE or
Hakan
in Saudi.
Gülken'in
So
doğrudan desteklerini
the
sizlerle
option here is if
paylaşmak isterim.
.com, we can
Ellerinden
immediately
gelecek her türlü
migrate their
desteği
catalog.
bizlere sağlayacaklarını
For
direkt
other
olarak belirtmişlerdir.
marketplaces, we are working, but
Türkiye
you know,
aynı
the
zamanda
experience
kredi kartı
is pretty simple
penetrasyonunun da
if we use
Avrupa'da en yüksek
integration, if
olduğu
we use bulk
ülkelerden birisi
download.
olup
For example,
%77'ler
the
civarında
template that we have
çok
for
gelişmiş bir
AE
ödeme
is
altyapısına
absolutely
sahiptir.
similar
Lojistik
to
altyapısı
.uk. So if you
Avrupa'dan
download your
Orta
catalog in
Doğu'ya
UK, upload in
multimodal
AE,
çalışabilen ve
your listings will go live.
e-ticaret
So it's a very
fulfillment
seamless
altyapısı da
experience.
her
However,
gün
it's not as
gelişen bir
simple as
yapı
click of a button.
içerisindedir.
But now
Özellikle
coming
de
to the
e-ticaret
question where if
tecrübeli
you have a
insan
catalog in
kaynağına
UAE
sahiptir.
and if you want to migrate
Bu
into Saudi,
noktada
that
bölge
has been done. So
ülkeleriyle
if you have a catalog in
gerçekleştireceğimiz
UAE, we
e-ticaret
have
ve
a
e-ihracat
functionality where we
işbirlikleri
can,
çift
again,
taraflı
as
olacağı
simple as what
gibi
I'm saying, it's
aynı
just a click
zamanda
of a button. You set
karşılıklı
your
olarak
price and then
lojistik
the entire
altyapı,
catalog
teknolojik
within,
altyapı,
depending on the
insan
size, if it's
kaynağının
a massive
karşılıklı
catalog, it takes like 4
geliştirilmesini de
hours, 5
sağlayacak
hours. If it's
ve
a
en
small
nihayetinde
catalog, it takes
bölgemiz
minutes,
ve
and
bölge
your catalog
e-ticaret
will be available
şirketlerinin
in
global
Saudi. So those
e-ticaret
functionalities are
pazarında hak
available.
ettiği payı almasını sağlayacaktır.
You may
Bu
want to,
vesileyle
and we
bu
also have
etkinliğin gerçekleştirilmesini
we
sağlayan
also
Dubai
have a
Ticaret
functionality of
Akademimize,
Arabizing your content
Dubai'deki
in Saudi. So
dostlarımıza,
that
potansiyel
thing
iş
has also been
ortaklarımıza,
taken care of, where you
özellikle de
not only
Sayın
list your
Hasan
catalog
Önal'a
in English,
ve
but
çalışma
we as
arkadaşlarına bir
Amazon,
kez
we
daha
translate
teşekkür
your
ve
catalog
şükranlarımı
from
sunarım.
English into Arabic.
Gerçekten çok büyük emek
That
verdiler.
sounds great.
Hepimize ders
One
olacak
question came
bir
about
performans
if somebody
sergilediler.
wants to list in, let's say, UAE
Sözlerimi
and wants to be
sonlandırırken
prime, do they
etik
have to have a
olarak
Dubai tax
elimizden
account?
gelen her türlü desteği vereceğimizi bir kez daha vurgulamak isterim.
Okay, so
Siz değerli katılımcılar ve bölgemiz için faydalı ve
again go
hayırlı
back
bir
to the
etkinlik
two
olmasını
business models.
temenni
So one
ederim.
business model was
Teşekkürler.
merchant fulfilled network or B2C.
Biz
The other
teşekkür
one was
ederiz
FBA
Hakan Bey.
fulfilled by Amazon or B2B2C.
Sure.
When you are doing B2B2C or FBA, there are two critical elements that you have to take into consideration. One is we need an IOR or an importer on record for your products to come into UAE. We have, say, as service providers, we have external partners who can facilitate these services, but you are free to choose your own IOR, and these will basically help you to clear the customs and get the goods into our FC. The second very important element of FBA business is VAT. So we have been working closely with our public policy team to ensure that VAT registration is as seamless as possible. We are very happy to say that we have tried to work a lot with the public policy team to streamline or remove all the frictions of VAT registration, and it's again an online experience where you can go ahead and register your business for VAT. So if you are doing a FBA business, these are two critical things that you need to take into consideration. For business where you have a B2C model, as somebody, I think in the previous panel, they mentioned that there is a de minimis of 1,000 dirham or around $250 odd that somebody mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah, above that, you need you have to pay customs and VAT, but if the value is below that, you just need to pay VAT of 5%.
Okay, understood. So moving down the chain, so let's say we're listed and we're making sales. Can you comment on customer care and returns? How is that handled? It's the loveliest point of our business. So
yeah.
If you can, let's say here in UAE and also in Saudi, if there's any differences, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think there won't be much of a difference. Just to address your second question first, because we have centralized departments taking care of customer care, as well as there is a team taking care of returns, and it's channel or a market agnostic. So they take care of it across UAE and Saudi. For customer care, while we have a dedicated team, and I think they are best poised to answer a lot of questions about customer care, but what I can simply put across is for customers to
ask any questions with the buyer. We have facilitated customers with the buyer-seller messaging service, so they can actually reach out to the merchant directly, asking anything about the product, about shipment, about maybe anything that they need to address before they make the purchase or after they make the purchase. So those facilitation has already been taken care of. Still, if the customers have a problem with the product, with the kind of description, they can either file a complaint directly on the website, or they can reach out to the customer care, and customer care have their own metrics to evaluate customer complaints. We have A to Z claim. We have a lot of KPIs to track customer complaints and to ensure that customers are satisfied at any given point of time. I think that's important for merchants to know that when you move your products into FBA, the customer complaints, the returns, and everything is taken care by Amazon. So that's again a beauty of FBA, where we are responsible not only for delivery or ship back, we are also responsible for taking back your returns in case it's a customer related issue, or if the customer calls up, we ensure that we reply promptly. So those things are absolutely done by us, and that should be one of the incentives for merchants to move the products into FBA. Coming on to returns, again, as I think in the previous panel there were some numbers, so I won't go into the numbers. I think it's important to know that returns are a given. There will be returns in e-commerce. The percentage can vary depending on the category. What we have done is we have facilitated MFN, or the Merchant Fulfillment Network model, by providing a prepaid label. So as a merchant, you can provide a prepaid label to the customer where they can ship back their products into either a local warehouse, or like I think there was a previous panel where they said that they can consolidate shipments, etc.
That's between you and that third-party delivery company that you work with, right? If you would warehouse them in country or return them back to the originating country, etc.
Yes. Yes.
One question: if I list with FBA, does that automatically qualify my products for Prime?
Absolutely.
For free shipping.
That's the beauty.
Right.
Yes. For free shipping, any promotion that we do, discoverability becomes much higher. FBA is the way to go. Like sooner or later, at some point of time in your business journey, I think you need to evaluate the services of FBA.
Maybe in the last minute, Varun, obviously Amazon is a very large company, and you're trying to make the listing process as seamless as possible. And yet I'm sure there are challenges, etc. Are there things that the Turkish brands that are in the audience right now can do to make it easier on themselves and on Amazon in their listing process? Are there like common mistakes that you find that they can avoid?
Yeah, I think depending on the I would say like how updated the seller is, how well versed the seller is with e-commerce and with catalog creation, there could be different error that the seller makes. But I think what is important for merchants to know is there are guidelines, and if you adhere, or if you stick to the guidelines that we have published for our catalog creation, 9 out of 10 times we won't feel any, or we won't see any sort of catalog creation error. I know that with Soup we had a few bit of issues with respect to catalog creation, but with Amazon it has scaled massively, and sellers are using automated API integrations as well as bulk upload tools to ensure that their catalog goes live. I just want to stress upon another fact for brands where they want to sell into the Middle East, and they have real high quality rich content. We also offer something called A+ catalog, where you can upload your videos, you can upload high resolution images. So those facilities are available for the brands. Again, coming back to the point to harmonize the customer experience to ensure that we have a similar experience all across.
One last thing, I'm just looking at the Q&A. I think we handled almost everything, but a couple of people asked, brief about Vendor Central and its scope in UAE. And going forward, what are vendor central opportunities?
Yeah, I wanted to address at the beginning, I think there are two models that Amazon operates in. One is retail, second is marketplace. Retail is more traditional wholesale buying, selling model. Marketplace is more 3P model. I'm expert in marketplace. I know everything about marketplace, but retail, I won't be able to comment because I'm not really clear about, or I'm not the right person for retail. Happy to address or connect you with the right folks in case there are questions.
Okay, understood. And then maybe that's the last thing, that is the last segue. What is the best way that these audience members can contact Amazon and start looking into doing business with you here in the Middle East?
Yeah, one of the key things I think with Amazon, as I mentioned, is like we want to have a contactless operation. However, I think if the sellers are still facing issues or there are things which are not very clear based on the help pages, we have in the Seller Central, we have support, seller support team. There are different reason codes, and based on the reason codes, we can address those concerns. So I would say that would be a great starting point. In the services.amazon.ae, we have tried to build a lot of content which is very relevant for this audience. But still, if you have any issues, I think I'm more than happy in case. I see a lot of connections over the last few days over LinkedIn. So I'm more than happy to connect and address those questions to you.
Thank you so much, Varun. We're just on half an hour, so I'll close the session. Thanks for attending, and thanks also to Mary as well. And say hi to Ronaldo as well. And great enlightening, session. And I hope the audience members also really benefit from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks a lot, and all the best. Thank you.
All the best. Ms. Gul, if you don't mind, I'll move on to the next session.
Yes, I just added Mr. Ehab as a panelist. Yes.
Sounds great.
Hi, Alper.
Hi, Ehab.
Good to have you.
Nice to have you as well. So, this is our next conversation is with Ehab Al-Dissi. He's CEO of Arsal at Oman Post. Welcome, Ehab.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alper. It is a huge opportunity for us as well to be here to present to you guys and the merchants from Turkey over how we can help you in Oman and across the board in the Middle East. So thank you so much for you, and many thanks to Mr. Hassan Onal for arranging this excellent opportunity.
Sounds great. Nice to have you here. Look, Oman is one of my favorite places, not only in the Middle East, but around the world. An awesome country with a very rich history. A very interesting, attractive market as well. Could we start by better informing our audience about Oman and the market opportunity there? Tell us a bit about the demographics and
Yes, of course. When we look at the market of Oman in general, we are attributed to be super young. More than 50% of our audiences that are based out of the country are less than 25 years old. The online penetration is really high. Something interesting about the market in the past 3 months is that around 40% of the first-time purchasers have bought something online during the COVID-19 era, which we call it since March until today. So we see that the consumer behavior is really changing heavily. And we as well can see that a lot of international players are coming into this part of the world and being interested. And definitely would love as well to welcome you guys as well to have your own footprint in here. Other than the fact that the market is quite virgin, we as well have a very high or tech-savvy audience. We are really inclined to buy things from the outside. We are heavily an importing country overall. We have loosened up a lot of the investment procedures that we used to have here in Oman. So now it is more than often that you can see a lot of global players opening their own headquarters in here. For us as Oman Post, precisely, Alper, we're not here only to promote the market. Actually, actually of Oman. We're as well to be speaking a bit about Oman Post and the things that we are trying to do. Although we are a state-owned postal operator, we do have a sister company which is Oman Air, and with that facilitation, we can support the rest of the Middle East whenever there is a need for a last mile delivery or for a line haul movement. We have a lot of international players that are based out of China. Today, with the COVID-19 situation, we can see that the consumers' interest in such origins is a little bit lower than before. So that is why this might be a huge opportunity as well for the Turkish merchants to come and to fill the gap as far as the market opportunity is really going. So Oman overall is populating as the third largest country in the GCC. It is the second largest when it comes to the area. For the purchase power, it is really developing, it is really changing. We are eventually a GCC country that is really focused on the opportunity as becoming the hub for the GCC by the year 2040. With that understanding as well, we are trying to be attractive for the merchants that they are trying to sell into the North African countries and the GCC.
And I imagine that Muscat, the capital itself, is quite attractive since there's quite a bit of concentration of population, you know, in one place. In a way, it makes it, you know, easier to reach people because so much of the population is concentrated.
Very true, very true. Normally, we have around 40 to 50% of the population situated in Muscat, which is the largest city in the country, which makes it really easy for you to reach your audiences as far as the last mile delivery is concerned.
So can you tell us a bit about Ersal?
Yeah, Ersal is a JV between Oman Post and Fetcher. We are here to facilitate the first mile, the middle mile, and the last mile when it comes to sourcing countries such as China, the other Far Asian countries. Turkey definitely is one of the sourcing countries that we are trying to penetrate as well. We have our own line haul from the GCC country as well into the whole region. As far as Ersal goes, we do not look at ourselves as a last mile company that is focused on Oman only, but we have our own connection since we have many mergers and acquisitions either are being cooked now, or we have an established relationship with Ninja Van and Fitcher currently speaking. We are as well one of the suppliers of the major last mile companies. So the likes of, for example, DHL, the likes of Posta Plus, you will see them, they are utilizing our service to do on their behalf the last mile. With that comes as well the other direction of the movement when it comes to the interchange of goods across the region.
So, so a Turkish brand that wants to sell in Oman could get in contact with you, and you could provide them the logistics and last mile services in Oman and across Oman, everywhere, I imagine.
Yeah, well, today, as I said, it's not only the focus of Oman. Definitely for Oman, that's going to be our starting point. We are establishing our own 25,000 square meters hub. It will be constituting an e-fulfillment solution. It will have the latest technology migrated into it, so we can support this region out of Oman, and not only for inside the country when it comes to the selling of goods into the GCC countries. That says we are supporting Morocco, Tunisia, Qatar. We have our own line haul into UAE and KSA. So we would like to be called ourselves a hub, not only a small company that is really focused on the market of Oman.
And what specific opportunities do you see for Turkish brands in Oman?
If you look at the demographics, lately the biggest rise is witnessed in the baby wears overall. Year to year, overall, the exchange of goods between Oman and Turkey has grown by around 55%. So if you look at the year 2019 versus the year 2020, and year to date is around 55% growth. And it is really happening across all the goods that you can consume as an end user.
Sorry, first, just comparing the first 6 months to first 6 months of 2019?
Yes. So the first 6 months, 2019 to the first 6 months of 2020, 55% is the growth rate overall.
That's great. That is great to hear.
Yeah. So as well, we can see that the consumer in Oman are really fans of the Turkish quality. We have a lot of players that are already starting with various players. We do believe as well that there is still a huge opportunity to the other verticals. Now we can see that there is some kind of demand for the personal use items. We can see that the food items as well are on the spike. We can see as well some specialty services as well, not only the product or the finished goods out of Turkish origin are really on the rise. This is especially the case for Oman, since the consumer is less confident than before with the Chinese merchant. So we do believe that it might be a good opportunity for you guys to fill that gap for our end consumer here in Oman.
Understood. So a great opportunity, a booming population. So for young families with kids, there's probably a great opportunity for Turkish brands to come in.
Very true.
There are a lot of Omani tourists coming to Turkey, and probably getting exposed to Turkish brands while they come as tourists as well.
Very true.
Beyond you said that you are not only about Oman. Do you see opportunities for Oman Post and ourselves to work with Turkish brands beyond Oman?
Yes, of course. As a postal operator, and I think my friend Hakan as well is, I'm not sure if he's in the call, but he might shed some light. We have our own postal network connections. We do entertain an intra countries connection that is going to be managing the line haul out of Oman as a hub for the region on a very discounted rate. Such countries that we can help you facilitate the reach into are Morocco, Tunisia, Qatar as well. Also, we can reach a couple of African countries. Definitely, it might be really useful for you guys because the logistic cost is very elemental for you to be able to be competitive in those markets. And we do believe that we have a very, very competitive rate today, which is coupled with a very decent last mile service.
Sounds great. And if we now go back to Oman, because you would know this, what about the tax regime and customs? So if I'm a Turkish brand selling in Oman, terminating in Oman, what would I face?
Okay, so if you are an international seller, not only a Turkish seller, you will have the right to be selling your items in Oman. It is going to be, generally speaking, on a tax-free basis, as far as you're going to be taxed for 5% of customs duties, and that's it. Nothing else beyond that is going to be paid. Now, definitely.
Is there any minimum in UAE? There's a it's beyond 1,000 dirhams, I think.
Yeah, well, if it's less than 30 riyals, which is around $85, you're going to be exempt. There's going to be no 5% even to be paid. So which is quite good. The basket value, by the way, in Oman is above the 155 US dollars. So you would say that the basket value is quite extensive. The online penetration is really high. People are really tech savvy and they're really adamant and they really appreciate the let's say the Turkish brands overall. It is attributed to be of a good quality overall. So yeah, we do believe that there is a huge gap in this market that can be fulfilled by those merchants.
And do you have a sense in general what are return rates in Oman? I know it varies from category to category, but like
yeah,
it's more or less than, let's say, UAE. And
yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends on different factors. For example, if you're looking into the electronics, it is almost 2 or 3%. For the apparel, usually it might jump up to 15%. If it's a high season, it might hit the 17%. But if it's a normal rate, it's not really a high season, it would be usually at around 10 to 9%, no more than that.
Okay, great. And how is the efforts in Oman itself for building up the e-commerce ecosystem there and availability of local marketplaces that Turkish brands can list with?
Oh boy, I mean, this is the talk that the government is really speaking about on every single opportunity. They are trying to heavily work on the ecosystem overall and to make it really attractive for the foreign investors, namely the Turkish ones. The country overall is small when it comes to its population. Yes, we are the third biggest population, but we have to be a bit more reliant on the foreign investments. With that comes the easy taxation, Now you don't have to have a Omani partner with you, definitely for different sectors. There are huge steps that have been undertaken to make it a little bit more friendly when it comes to re-exporting and importing the goods, so we facilitate the success of the other merchants that are of foreign nationalities. So overall, it's an ongoing effort that the government is trying to impose in here. As you can see, the likes of Kuwait, UAE, and even Saudi are taking giant steps, and Oman is no exception to that as well. We're trying to make it really easy for the others to join us.
Are those things already available, or are they being worked on? For example, if I'm a major Turkish fashion brand or a home goods brand, can I easily go start a company 100% foreign owned?
Good question. Good question. So we have a program that is called the Upscale program. It is going to be incubated by Oman Post and the Ministry of Transport, where we give you a designated area, which is a tax-free area. You can have all the support that is required. You're going to be exempt out of taxes as far as you can operate out of Oman, as far as you do own the technology. It will be really facilitating for you the reach to the good calibers of candidates to work for you in the back end, a tax exempt mechanism, available tech. There's going to be as well a sponsorship of the technology if this is something of your concerns, as far as there is an opportunity for the overall country-wise, right? I mean, we have to be a bit selective with the type of ventures that we are trying to sponsor, but this is something that we are already offering in the market.
Sounds great. Do you have any other advice that you'd like to give to these Turkish brands that are in the audience?
Come in, guys. Don't wait. Just come in. I mean, seriously, there is a gap in the market, and the power of selection that is offered in the Omani market today is very, very, very minimal at this moment. And we do believe that the Turkish merchants and availability of their products is going to be enriching the overall ecosystem. We do enjoy good, let's say, good connections with Turkey, which is going to be availing the goods for a last mile delivery at a very discounted rate. This is something that we would love to be speaking with any of the international or the Turkish merchants to have. So no time to waste. We're waiting for you guys. And as I said, it has been never better than now.
So what I hear from you is, UAE, Saudi, Egypt, these are large markets and they're great, but there's lots of competition and lots of selection there. And maybe some of the things are more expensive as well, like, last mile and delivery and logistics. There's a more like clear blue ocean availability in Oman, where there is a sizable market and there's a lack of selection and providing.
Yeah, I mean you've said it rightly. I mean, it's easy for whoever is going to be coming, if he's focused on this market, to become the new big shark in the tank, right? Because there is not a lot of players in the market at the moment.
There is one question that came in. It says, with postal in other countries, how is last mile managed in case of Ersal?
Okay, so for us as Oman Post, we do offer the last mile as far as the postal operator is offering it. Today, it is a fact. Not all the postal operators are offering last mile. Some of them are offering it, but it might not be up to the mark that we would be offering to our clients. So we have a selection of companies, we have selection of operators that we have very close ties with, that we migrate both technology in both ends, and we can share a list of countries that we are really confident about them when it comes to the last mile delivery. So it is offered, not everywhere, but for a good count of companies today.
That sounds great. And I don't have any more questions, and I think we asked the questions that the audience asked as well. Do you have any closing comments that you'd like to add to the session?
The final thought that I would be really focused on is that when it comes to the first mile and the line haul, we have offered and we still have a very discounted rate at a very good service level. We have covered the country for the last mile end to end. Also, we are covering the rest of the region with the last mile delivery. We have the COD service, which is coupled with a very high KPI that is really focused on the e-commerce players. We do believe that we know the audience better than many other players, since this is our bread and butter today. So we do not want to be seen as a postal operator, but more like an e-com flash fulfillment player that is trying to focus on the Middle East.
You did say COD, and it does beg the question, how big is that in Oman, in your experience?
The COD overall, if you leave the opportunity for your end customer to decide, you would be having around 80% on COD, 20% on prepaid. The market overall is inclined to be receiving the shipment on COD. I mean, as an end consumer, you will be, you will have the freedom of choice to pick that option. However, with that being said as well, although the COD is really high, we have entertained very high success rate overall. I mean, versus the other countries, usually it is really above the average.
And have you seen COD drop during the COVID times?
Well, because of the contactless delivery that the customers were really keen on having, yes, we have seen some kind of drop. However, we do not think that this is an organic drop. We think it might be really coupled with the season of the COVID-19. So it might be coming back to the normal range of 80% before the end of this year. But yeah, definitely we have seen some drop.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Really nice to have you. And thanks for sharing with us both information about Oman, but also beyond about Oman Post and also ourselves. I really appreciate your inputs.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alper, for your time, and hopefully to see you around.
One last thing is, how would these brands contact you if they want to do
I can share my email. I think I've shared it already with the team of Hassan. So please do feel free to drop me an email. I can also leave my WhatsApp number. So whenever there is a requirement, we're more than happy to support you guys.
Sounds great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
And Ms. Gül, we'll move on.
Apurva is here as well now.
Okay, great. I'll wait for him to see him.
Hey guys, hello Alper, how are you?
How are you?
It's very good, thank you. It's been a very interesting afternoon. I've been listening the whole day and it's been very educational and good to finally talk to you.
Nice to talk to you as well. So our next conversation is with Apurva Kumar, Senior Vice President at Jumia Group. Apurva, are you here in Dubai? Or are you?
No, I am living in Egypt. I basically travel and live out in Northern Africa. Last 7 years, I've lived in Nigeria, in Morocco, in Kenya, and before the lockdown started, I was in Egypt and I decided to stay here.
Okay, sounds great. You're in Cairo, I imagine.
Yes, I'm in Cairo.
This is where we also have our largest office, in fact, and it's a place that I haven't visited in a long time, but it's an awesome city. So maybe that's a great segue. I mean, you just talked about different countries that you've been working at, and some of the brands that are in the audience may not be already selling in Africa. They may not know Africa. They may not know Jumia Group, although you are the sizable African player. Can you tell us a bit about Jumia Group's business and where you are, the footprint?
Yeah, exactly. Look, Alper, I think it's a good point that you mentioned that sometimes people don't really see the opportunity in Africa. So let's start a little bit with Africa, the overall context of the continent and the business, and then let's translate to Jumia and why Jumia, vehicle, etc. Okay. Africa, I think so. Today, Africa is a very big opportunity for retail and for e-commerce, but very specifically in general, a very big opportunity. What are the macro stats? 1.4 billion people. 2050 going to be 2.5 billion people. If you remove India and China out of the population, it's going to be about 39% of the world's population in 2050. So about 30 years from now, it's going to be about 40% of world's population. Today's average age is 19 point some years, so roughly 20 years. The middle class is growing at 30 to 40% year on year, which is compared to the next best, fastest growing block. It's quite exponential. And those are the big macro parameters for retail in general and e-commerce also to sort of trigger out. Okay, I before Jumia, before I've been with Jumia since inception, but before Jumia, I was working for an e-commerce group in India, and which is about 8 years ago. With Flipkart, Myntra, and similar macroeconomic trends about 9 years ago in India.
Sure.
With respect to internet in Africa, and really that's where I think you start seeing the difference. Okay, today out of the 1.3 billion people, 550 million people in Africa are already using internet, which is growing at 10 to 15% year on year. Again, comparing to the other economies, this is quite a fast growing number.
Sure.
We recently did some study with one of the top consulting companies, and we came up to a conclusion that, and it's public actually, that in the next 5 years, the internet using population in Africa is going to be 700 million. That's huge.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 700 million people with access to smartphone, with average age of, I don't know, 24, 23. This is really, really big, sitting, huge potential, right? And I think sometimes those numbers, when you take a second and you start thinking about it, 700 million people in this continent are going to be using smartphones and are going to be shopping online. I mean, and then you say, okay, look, we need to be there, right? So that's really about the potential. Now, what is happening today? Today, the penetration of organized retail and in general e-commerce thus is quite limited in Africa. Okay, to give you stats, one shop, so mom and pop store or whatever retail store, one shop for every 70,000 people in Africa. That number compared to US is like 1:1,000. Okay.
Yep.
So that's the gap. Europe, I think, is actually less than 1,000. I don't remember top of the mind. Okay. Out of that, so roughly $2.5 trillion was spent to 2018 on consumer spending in Africa. 1% or maybe even less than 1% is e-commerce.
Yes.
In China, e-commerce is 20%, US is 12%. So if you put those numbers together, okay, and if you're seeing those in context and you're saying that, look, wow, okay, 700 million people using internet, only 1% population on e-commerce. This has to grow. There is no way this doesn't have to grow. $2.5 trillion to be was spent 2 years ago, or it's going to be spent this year or something like that. I mean, you have to be there, right? So that's really setting up Africa in overall context. Okay. Geographically, a lot of countries, but I think 70-75% of the GDP of Africa is in the top 12, 13 countries. As Jumia, we are based in 11 countries in Africa. We are leading e-commerce platform in those countries.
Could you list them?
Yeah, of course. Let's go. We start with, so I'm in Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. So these are on the northern side, the 4 countries. Then on the Western Africa, we have Senegal, Ghana, Ivory Coast. Nigeria is a very big country. So these 4. Then on the east side, we do today Kenya and Uganda, and then we're present in South Africa. So that's a geographical presence in terms of, the consumer spend. And these 11 countries are roughly 70-75% of the GDP spending potential, smartphone potential. I mean, various criteria and categories, and thus it makes sense for us to be in these countries.
Sure.
So that's a little bit about Africa, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. I think it's really important to set that message right. Jumia, we are leading, as I said, we are leading the e-commerce platform in Africa. The way Jumia is structured is 3 pillars. One is the marketplace, where thousands of sellers are able to sell their products and services to millions of consumers in Africa. These sellers majorly come from Africa, but we are beginning to open our platforms the last 2-3 years from sellers all over the world. So all over the world now. The second platform is the logistics platform of Jumia, where you have thousands of third-party players doing deliveries from these merchants to these consumers. And then the third platform is the Jumia Payments, which is basically seamlessly doing and preparing the payment solutions for all these transactions, okay? And all these transactions, payments have to be done via what we call as Jumia Pay. So that's really very high level structure of Jumia. Some high level numbers. We are currently listed in NYSE. We are going through a blackout period because our earnings release is next month, so I cannot share very recent numbers, but some high level numbers which are public and were shared by us before, just to get a sense of, you know, what Jumia is. Last year we had about 110,000 merchants selling on Jumia to about 6.5 million customers. Close to 1 billion visits on our websites across all the platforms in all the countries. And so that's a little bit of idea of how Jumia is in Africa. Our logistics, we have close to, we do close to 200, 300 partners in Africa, from small to very big, from the likes of very small guy on the scooter delivering as a partner to the likes of Aramax and DHL. So a very big plethora of partners. We did close to, with this whole network, we did close to 25.6 million deliveries last year. So that's really like the kind of size and the kind of focus. In terms of businesses, we're fairly spread. West Africa, North Africa, they're fairly equal and quite big markets for us. Nigeria and Egypt are our biggest potential and also our biggest countries right now in terms of business across the three platforms. Okay, and then there is Kenya and Uganda and South Africa, which forms the block at the end, completing our kind of business value. So that's really high level Jumia numbers in Africa and potential.
So that is very interesting. I find that Africa fascinating. We're only live with our business in Egypt, but when you do the consulting and look at the numbers, I think you mentioned this rising population, right?
Yeah.
A population that's constantly, more and more people are coming into the economic fold. And then there is this rising purchasing power. You know, a lot of people moving into middle class, having disposable income. And then the other thing that's very interesting about Africa, especially about like the city you live in, there's rising urbanization. So people are moving rural parts to the urban city centers, which makes e-commerce that much more interesting and easier to do in a way. I think Cairo, in the, you know, by 2030 is going to be the biggest city on the planet.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And that you have to deal with all the traffic, but it's amazing.
I sometimes, you know, when I have to meet people, I tell them, let's meet in Dubai instead of, I live in New Cairo, instead of going to October. I said, guys, when we are in Dubai, we'll meet, okay? But yes.
Cairo is close to the airport, and maybe it's faster for you to meet here than over there. But,
Yep. Urbanization. So 2025, I read some numbers in some report. 2025, 45% of Africa would be urbanized. 45% of the population would be urbanized. So that's huge potential. Having said that, one of the things which we are realizing with Jumia is, and it's very interesting, and it's not so similar to let's say the Dubai and Oman, maybe, because I was listening to Varun and people before, but you know, in Africa, Jumia is not just giving solution in tier 1 regions. Jumia is also giving a solution of access in tier 3 regions. Okay, so our deliveries, our distribution of our sales is actually quite distributed. Okay, and 25%, if I'm right, across all countries combined, are actually coming from what we call as tier 3 and tier 4 regions in Africa, because simply we give access to people to merchandise which they wouldn't have otherwise. So that's also an interesting piece.
In their town or village, etc. So
exactly.
They only have to do Jumia. Let's talk about. So you said you're getting started, you know, listing non-African brands and companies, you know, on Jumia. Let's be, you know, to the point and like talk about, if I'm a Turkish brand, a mega brand, let's say in fashion and consumer goods, how can I get started?
Yeah.
Where would you? Is there one Jumia central that I go and I list, you know, in multiple countries? Would I have to list individually in Jumia? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's a good transition. Okay, so I made some slides I will share with the audience, but couple of points, so just for you to get a sense of it, right? We started sort of this whole piece which I'm managing now in Jumia, called Jumia Global Business. Okay, we started this piece about a couple of years ago, the mission was bringing all the merchants all over the world to this whole fast evolving consumer space in Africa. Okay, and the aim is to open multiple sources, and we're going like geography by geography, and we are beginning to open. So we started with China, obvious reasons. Okay, and then we started a pilot with a hub in Dubai with some partners, logistics and supply chain partners. And then now we have already started working with some brands from Turkey. So we have Trendyol, which is selling in Morocco. We have De Facto, we have Flow Shoes, and we're seeing great traction. Okay, in fact, last week we are running a campaign on Jumia Morocco. So if you go to Jumia Morocco right now, guys, you will see a campaign running on Jumia Morocco just for Turkish sellers, and it's showing great traction. It's showing great traction. Fashion from Turkey, delivered in 5 days in Morocco. Amazing traction. Okay, and we are facilitating it through a brand of and logistics partner. So it's quite amazing. But that's really the history. So let me just share my slides, and then I can talk you through it a bit. Please confirm if you can see them.
Yes, I can see them.
Okay, great. So I have talked about this already. So let's move fast. If there is something, I will show you guys. So I think to answer your question and also cover a little bit more, okay. So generically, there are two methods to work with Jumia. If you're a seller out of the Jumia countries, okay. If you're a cross-border seller, we use the word cross-border, okay. The two things are very simple, and the team from Amazon had described everything of it already, you know, so in very, very detailed manner, so technical manner, but basically it's very simple. The first step, the stock stays with you in your base country. So you are in Turkey, the stock stays with you. You are listed in our country. So the good part about Jumia is and because we started developing this technology about 2 years ago, we have something what is called as Global Vendor Center. So you don't need to worry about, you know, duplicating your assortment and content in all countries and all. Okay, you just upload your content and you just decide, okay, now I will switch on Morocco, I will switch on Nigeria, I will switch on Egypt. These are the products. So you basically have the same catalog. Okay.
You offer many languages, I imagine.
Yes. So the three languages is French, Arabic, and English. Okay. Today, the Global Vendor Center is sort of supporting only English and French, and we have to do an Arabic translation. Okay. But we're working on it. It should be something very soon which will come. Okay. So in terms of operating model, it's very simple. Okay. The product stays with you. The order comes on your Global Vendor Center. You can see, hey, I've got an order to ship now. You pick packet from your warehouse and you ship it, and you decide to hand over to one of the logistics partners, and then it comes to our country, and I will explain that later. And the second model is consignment, which was very similar to the fulfillment by Amazon, which the Amazon team was talking. In terms of physical flow, it would look exactly like that. You send your products, your items, your stock beforehand to one of our warehouses in the destination countries, and then in those destination countries they're stocked. We call it Jumia Express. The reason is because the value proposition to the customer is that you get it like immediately, you get it the same day. Okay, so it's very simple for the customer.
The 5 days you mentioned in Morocco, is that the consignment model, or
no, it's the drop shipping model. This 5 days not normal business. Okay, the 5 days because we decided to plan this campaign. We've already pre-booked space on the flight, and there is a lot of planning which has gone into it. Okay, on a normal day-to-day business, this is like 9 days, 7 to 9 days. Okay,
but if it was consignment and it was already in the country,
it's same day or next day.
Okay.
So if you order before a certain time in the day, it depends on the day. I mean, we move campaigns, but today if you order before 2 p.m., you'll probably get it in Casablanca. You'll get it today, or tomorrow early morning. If you order after that, you get it after 24 hours. So it's just a cut-off timing. Okay.
Great. And Apurva, one question is: do you operate only as a marketplace model, or do you do e-commerce? Do you purchase and sell?
No, we are 100% marketplace model.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So that. Sorry, Alper, I missed. Hello.
So I thought so, but it was a question that I just want to inject.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, of course. Then I think I have explained this consignment, drop shipping. I think what would be a little bit important for me to really address here, and if you allow me a little bit on what is the uniqueness of value propositions with respect to some of the questions you were asking. Okay, and I can preempt it a little bit. Okay, the questions on return, etc. Right? Okay, so this is a slide which sort of shows some of the questions people were asking on return policy and customer service, and I was typing it while I was listening to the questions. Okay, I think few things. Okay, we have a slightly restrictive return policy for our cross-border sellers versus local sellers. Okay, so if you're a local, if you order from a local seller based in, let's take an example of Morocco. Okay, if the seller is based in Casablanca or in Fez or in Rabat, okay, then the customer has slightly more options to return. As a customer, I can return the piece saying, hey, I changed my mind. Okay, that's a classic example. Okay, but when you're ordering from cross-border, it is quite visible in your customer journey flow that we specifically mentioned that, look, this seller is gonna ship this from Turkey or from China or from France. So be a bit careful, and you cannot do my change my mind anymore. Okay, so you have to be a bit more focused on it, and that's really important. So we restrict some of the return reasons, etc. Okay, after the order is shipped, the customer on the website can go and cancel packages in local fulfillment. Okay, but in cross border you cannot cancel. I mean, this is very clear to you. If the order has been shipped by the seller, you cannot cancel because the seller would have already incurred the logistics cost.
But I imagine, Apurva, that you have quite a high cash on delivery component to this. Right?
Yes, for local business, but for cross-border business, we open cash on delivery only if the seller wants to. Okay. Okay. And when we do that, we give sellers a very accurate analysis of what to expect and thus factor it in their pricing. Okay.
So it's a compromise between conversion rates versus having returns, higher return rates, which is
exactly. Exactly. Also, just to give you some insight, and again, because of the blackout period, I can't share the numbers, but we launched this Jumia Pay, our payment method, and the integrator for all payment methods, and our payment. So what we call as prepaid, okay, the payment before, so anti of cash on delivery or payment on delivery. This numbers really become quite substantially good, okay, and like I can tell you, compared to like India, even India, when I was in India, okay, the number is quite healthy now. And in some countries, it is majority, okay, depending on the payment solutions available in terms. So it's really, really evolving. And also it is also being helped by the fact that our cross-border business is becoming stronger. So when you have like X% of your business, just serving you on prepaid, then, in general, the customer adoption, etc., increases because this assortment is genuinely good, okay?
Could you elaborate a bit on the payments? Because I think if some of the audience is not aware of, they're not informed about doing business in Africa, Africa has very unique and creative ways of payments. And I imagine that your payment solution has some of those integrated in. Can you tell a bit more about, how you're tackling payments across Africa?
Yep. So I just switched to a slide which was a little bit focused on payments, okay? But essentially, we have one of the most diversified payment portfolio I have seen across e-commerce companies in my journeys across continents. Okay, simple reason is because, as you said, Africa is extremely innovative and creative. We are working in 11 countries, and not all of them are same, and all of them have different regulations, and all of them have different kind of customer demography, availability of banking solutions, etc. So we really had to develop a very strong portfolio. Okay, today we can and also I must add, okay, that Mastercard became our shareholder a couple of years ago, and that has really brought a lot of good arsenal to us, okay, and we've they've been heavily integrated with us and working with Jumia Pay, and it's a real strong project for us. So basically, we pretty much do every single kind of payment you can imagine, okay. So let's talk about the payment on delivery options, and I will give you some use cases, and it's really customized to the country, but let me give you examples, okay. So we do typical cash on delivery like everybody else. So the customer, the delivery agent comes to you, you give cash, The guy takes back and deposits the cash in the hub or the bank or 3PL, whatever. Okay. We do something which is facilitation of the card payment on delivery. So basically the guy comes to you, the guy is carrying a POS machine from one of the reputed banks. The guy is carrying a Jumia Pay app, which is integrated with the delivery app. So you can use your Jumia Pay account, etc. You can also pay on delivery, for example, in Kenya using M-Pesa, which is a mobile payment, very popular in Kenya. Okay, so that's also something. Okay, then there are some hybrid models which are very, very sort of focused at Africa. And the one I like and is very common used is payment by Fori in Egypt, where you essentially order something and then you get like a token number, and then you have to go to your nearest point and deliver a cash. And the moment that trigger is done, your package is released and it's available for you delivery. So because of the virtue of all the kind of demographies, customers, countries, and what was available to us, okay, we sort of have developed these payment methods. Okay, so that's a high level view. Okay, then
but,
on the
but the important thing I think for the audience to hear is that you've kind of solved for that, right?
Yeah.
So in Kenya you have the M-Pesa, in Egypt you have Fawry,
Vodafone Cash. I mean, we have everything. Yeah.
And so that you just give so many more payment options, than they could, if they were to go build a site themselves, etc., from day one. So.
Yeah, no, it's something, when you've spent 7 years in the market and you understand it's a very, very big enabler for your business, right? I mean, it's a very big enabler, and it's something which is extremely important. So we obviously have to work on it. And I think we've made good progress. And I think as I said, we've been lucky. MasterCard's been very supportive to us. And then, we have very good partnerships locally with most of the big players in this segment, right? Okay.
So
go
ahead.
I wanted to spend like 2 minutes very focused on the cross-border seller, right? I mean, it's very important for them, right? Two things. Okay, our model, because we have local warehousing presence in each country, is very unique in the sense that when you ship your package on drop shipping and for some reason the customer rejects it or it does not reach the customer, okay, that percentage is very small because it's prepaid. Okay, it automatically comes back to our local fulfillment center, gets inbounded, and it's again live to be sold. Okay, so and we have a very specific marketing mechanism to push that, because we really care for the sellers and we know that it's money for them sitting in our warehouse. Okay, so this kind of unique value proposition doesn't exist if you want to ship via other platforms in Africa versus Jumia. Okay, because of the local warehouse, so you send a package, didn't get delivered, no problem. It comes back and sit in a local fulfillment center. It is still live to you as an SKU. And when the order will come on that SKU, first, it will be fulfilled from what is present in our warehouse locally. Only then you will get the order in your global vendor center in Turkey to ship the package again. Okay, that's quite unique. And that is the reason, for example, the sellers in Turkey have done, Trendyol, for example, is doing cash on delivery in Morocco. He's saying, I don't care. I mean, even if it goes back in Morocco, it will get delivered tomorrow as long as it's on the website. Okay. So it allows them to, have the buffer of the return rate and say, look, I still have to grow the business. So that's number one. Okay. Second thing, which in Africa, we realized very quickly is the confidence on the currency, right? And that is why we decided to sort of work with some partners. And we said, okay, we're going to give you a preset guaranteed FX rate. Okay, and all the transactions and everything is fixed on these FX rates. Okay, and this risk is really with us and a partner which we are working with us. Okay,
risk, you're somehow hedging.
Yeah, we're somehow hedging it. Okay, and sometimes it can be it has both. We've had some losses also. It's not easy, but because we want to grow and we want to make sure these partners are least worried about it, we tell them the pricing formula. We say, this is the exchange rate, you price upon it. Sometimes it might be the market rate. Sometimes it might not be the market rate, because in some countries, the market rate is not really what works. Okay. And then we always remit the sellers back on the FX rate, what we have agreed. So they are protected from the fluctuation and they get benefited from the reliability of the pricing. And thus, they can really sort of plan their revenue, profit, and the entire profitability equation independent of this. So that's also something which is very unique with Jumia, and also very sort of easy for the cross-border seller to work on Jumia with. I think that's a very strong value proposition, which I wanted to highlight as well.
Sounds great. I think one question that is coming is, I think people see the opportunity of these 700 million internet users, very young population, up and coming middle class. But there's a question about basket size for cross-border orders. And I'm sure it's very different from country to country, but can you paint a picture there, please?
Yeah. Look, it's a bit, like I said, I cannot share exact data because we're in this dark period with respect to NYSE. But in general, the basket sizes in Africa are quite low compared to Europe or US or GCC, Dubai, etc. Okay, and this is something which we have to be a little bit cognizant of. What I can give is a good indicator is that if you go to one of our websites and you start seeing cross-border, you will see a lot of fashion, okay, which is in the, let's say, sub $15 range. You will see a lot of smart electronics. You'll see a lot of electronics, small electronics, and even on the smartphone side, etc., you will see more low-end smartphones, okay? And they are again a function of what is the need in the market, what sells, okay? Having said that, when we started our seller base in our hub in Dubai, we were trying to push high value products and as more of a pilot, because also obviously the availability of consignment in Dubai is quite good towards it. While we saw good purchase in pockets, it is not something we thought we can scale simply because it is not in line with the big target segment we have in the markets, okay?
Okay. Understood. And there's a clarification question about your consignment model. Yeah. They're saying, can Jumia handle the first mile and the last mile? Do they need a company locally? So in doing what you're doing in Morocco?
No, they don't. You don't need any company locally. Yeah. You don't need.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to record you. Can you tell Jane he's
you're on. That's good.
Jane, yes, she's allowed.
It's not she, it's a he.
You're unmuted. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, these are nice things which happen with calls, right?
Yeah.
So no, you don't need today a local company. Okay, what you need is like Varun was pointing out, you need an IOR, and we have a strong marketplace of logistics and service providers available to you, and you can ship in our countries using those providers, and there is absolutely no local requirement in any of our countries if you want today do a consignment model.
That sounds great, and I think there's quite a bit of interest in talking to you and getting to work with Jumia and getting interest, a lot of interest in working in Africa. One thing that Mr. Hassan is asking is, if there can be more time slots for these Turkish brands to meet with Jumia.
Yes, definitely. Tell me how to facilitate it over an email, and we can. I have a full team, and we can broadcast them.
I think between Turkish Business Council and Mr. Hassan's team, hopefully we can do that. Any last remarks about Turkish brands, in Africa with Jumia?
Yeah. Look, I mean,
get across to them.
Yeah, there are hundreds of things I would like to share, but a few important things, and I'll take 30 more seconds. Okay. One.
Let me take a few more minutes. We started a bit late our section, so I think we can take a couple more minutes. Please share.
Great. So in general about Africa, guys, okay. Personally, I have a lot of experience with e-commerce in India and China a little bit, and then Africa now. Africa is at a tipping point, what we call as point of influx. The African e-commerce market is in its 7th to 8th tier in most of the big countries we're talking about. If you look at Alibaba, if you look at Flipkart in India, if you look at Amazon in US, okay, most of these economies and these companies suddenly pivoted, X times. I mean, I can tell you the numbers, but most of them pivoted between 5X to 7X between their 7th year and 10th year. Okay, why? Because a variety of things, right? The people begin to understand the market, the payment solution came up, the infrastructure came up, some interesting things happened, boom by government on digital payment, etc., etc. So in Africa, we are in 7th year. In most of our countries now, we are already beginning to see the tipping point. This COVID-induced lockdown showed us the potential and the mindset shift of the customer. So it's a very interesting time to get in Africa. And I think the window is from now till about next 24 months. If you get in now, you would be writing stories like what Alibaba and Amazon have written, 10 years from now. So that's one important thing. Okay. Then second, in general, I mean, these are observations which folks from Amazon were also saying. But very, very clearly, I want to emphasize this especially to the brands and to the sellers and the owners and their CEOs, right? A lot of CEOs spend their time thinking about commercial negotiations and commercial operations. Okay. In e-commerce, I think what is more, and they delegate like the operations and running business to a junior team. Okay. In e-commerce, the real key success is the owner and the real decision maker, the person who's a decision maker. That person should spend time on really operations, on out of stock, on the content of what you're writing on the website, on shipping fast, how you're packing. These kind of things should not be delegated. So that is very critical for your shop to initially get the right customer attention feedback, and thus, the real success in African market. Okay. Then second thing is, a lot of people focus on, again, commercial negotiations, my commission 5%, 10%, 15%. The real key of growing e-commerce is really focusing on your cost of fulfillment. And if you're able to really micro it and start solving it, I think in the end, the way e-commerce is going to grow, it's always going to be a thin commission or low percentage business, but it's really going to scale. Okay. And that's really something very important. And my request and my advice to most of the sellers who would start with us, that's where your focus should be initially. And then once you scale, I mean, you can always do a commercial negotiation at any given point of time. Okay. But if you don't put attention on those things, you're really not going to scale initially.
That is great. And I guess as the main player in Africa, you bring a lot of that to the table. Right?
We have to, and we really focus on it. Yeah.
Solving for these operational issues in a place where, frankly, it's not so easy to solve. Right. And that I think is your great differentiation as Jumia. So there's a lot of interest in meeting you. I'm being asked to make you promise that you're going to get your team, tomorrow actively involved with these Turkish brands. So I think there's a lot of promise. It's going to be hopefully a very good impact both for them and for Jumia's business. Thank you so much, Apurva. A great presentation. Really, I learned a lot as well. Although I thought I knew Africa, I think there's a great opportunity in these 11 markets. Any more expansion? Is it going to be a 12th or 13th market coming down the line?
No, because I think there is expansion, but expansion more focused on the service lines. And then inside these countries also, like we go from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3, but not more countries. I mean, we are not looking at it today.
Okay, thank you so much. And look forward to these brands, working with you and hopefully getting more Turkish brands out there and across Africa.
Yes, we have just started building our hub in Turkey. We are in the first few months, and the more the merrier, because it would help us support build the hub and thus bring the cost down, and then we can support better. I think it's really something important.
So just to be clear, you're starting a hub in Istanbul, I imagine?
Yes, so we're starting it with a partner essentially. The idea is so today we have some partners who are sort of one partner, one seller, okay? But then the way we operate is when we see there is enough volume, we actually go and put a physical infrastructure, a consolidation hub where we will receive all the volumes and then sort it country-wise, etc. I mean, today it is a very pilot mode, okay? But we realize the potential, and all our country teams are extremely interested. My Ghana CEO just called me in the morning and saying, hey, when can we start Turkey to Ghana, and when can we start Turkey to Kenya? So there's a lot of interest from the country management teams. So this year is going to be a breakthrough year. We're going to spend the next 3-4 months with the team trying to really establish the supply chain from Istanbul to all these countries. And And I think the more support we can get from the government, from the sellers there, it's going to be amazing. And one of the purposes tomorrow for us is also to gather that support and to understand how can we work together.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Apurva, and look forward to staying in touch. And I think there's a lot of people that still want to talk to you, but hopefully it happens, today and tomorrow. Just as a final note, I'm so happy to, have held this these series of discussions. We talked to Jumia about launching Turkish brands across Africa in 11 key markets. That's a great opportunity. We talked to Oman Post about Oman as a blue ocean market. And we talked to also Amazon, a key player here in the Middle East market. So altogether, I hope a lot of Turkish brands go out there, in short order, makes hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and contribute to the Turkish GDP and the business, and the economies of these countries as well. Thank you very much. Ms. Gül, over to you.